Well, it's Wednesday again, and I'm here with my guests, Skaeth, and the hunt, I guess. I've had a productive weekend. Yay. So, Skaeth, I have finally managed to get this guy back to the point he was at when I finished recording, and then screwed up, and I've actually done the gold since then. There's a little belt, there's a little gem in his belly, and his helmet, and so on. I need to add a little bit of a couple of glazes to these shin guards and this shoulder pad. But yeah, he's practically back where he was when I screwed up and had to start over. Don't worry about that. That's fine. So they're on their way. Had a bit of a scare yesterday when my camera wouldn't turn on. Not this camera. This camera is my phone camera. This camera there, which is what I do my painting tutorial stuff on, because it's got fixed focal length and so on. And yeah, it wouldn't turn on, and it's turning on today. Yeah, it's turning on today. But yesterday it wasn't. It's been doing that for the last few months, so if you suddenly see a community post from me saying, hey, my camera's died, here's a GoFundMe to help me buy a new one, then you'll know what's happened, because I can't afford to replace it if it does go. So yeah, that's a thing that I'm slightly worried about. But Skaeth's Wild Hunt, doing well. Should have them done this week. Also been painting up, Duty McDuterson. These guys I'm not as urgent about, because I've done everything that is going to be on camera for the regular infantry guys, with the exception of weapons. I've already done that on camera with this one. So I'm mostly just touching these up and doing them as I go, with as I finish off Skaeth on camera. So that's them. Push them out of the way. And what else have I been painting? I have been finishing off some of my Deathwatch stuff. Specifically, this might not fit on camera. It doesn't, because it's too big. Hang on. Let's go up and over. So specifically, we go even higher than that. Yes, but my phone, my tripod falls over. There we go. Okay, specifically, this is weird. This Corvus Blackstar, because I'm selling my Deathwatch. It's basically a patrol detachment, an HQ, 2 veteran squads, and a dreadnought, and this. So I needed to finish this because it was just had its base coats airbrushed. So I needed to finish this to a decent kind of tabletop standard, similar standard to the rest of the army, basically. And so I did that, and it took me about 5 hours total, including the base, to get it from just the red stripes and the black and the gold airbrushed to this. So I would say it probably would take me about 10 hours to paint one of these to this standard from scratch. It's not counting building it. Well, this is actually a relatively easy kit to build, because it's basically just 2 bits that you glue together. Very easy kit. And yeah, even to the point where all the bits are removable. They're not magnetized, they easily sit on there and won't come off during gameplay. So the hurricane bolters come on and off. And they go back on again. Yes, they do. Yes, just like that. Very easy. And no, I will not be doing a video on painting this particular vehicle, because I had to really knock it out. And videoing something makes it take longer, is the short explanation. But basically, color-wise, it's all the same colors as any of my Deathwatch, and I've got videos on those. The only difference is I only did one edge highlight all the way around, because that's all it really needs for such a big model. And that's pretty much it. I used a little bit of a pale blue-grey in order to kind of lighten the panels in the middles and give it a bit more shading than a regular Deathwatch Marine would get. That's because it's such a big model, having it actually look black looks really weird, at least to me. So there's the lenses. Don't know if the camera's going to want to focus all the way in there. There we go. So here's a good excuse to practice my lenses on that front array there. I'm quite chuffed with the old missiles that are in there too. And if I take it off its stand, so you can see the stand. The stand, as you can see, is a snow stand, just like the rest of my Deathwatch. This is, do I have it over here? I do. It's mostly made up of this stuff, Secret Weapon Seen Its Crushed Glass, mixed with some Vallejo still water effects in order to create a kind of slush. Then you use that to sculpt on the icy bit, and then you use baking soda or Valhalla Blizzard. I've used both in order to create the powdery snow on top, and the bulk of it is just built up out of cork. And this is just a bit of cork that I painted with an airbrush. So yeah, the base isn't particularly tough. It's just long drying times for everything. And the underside is very boring, because who looks at the underside of a plane? Apart from the people that get bombed by it. And they're miniatures, so they don't care. So yeah, nothing much going on there. I have edge highlighted the underside. One thing that I did do is, in order to save time, and it looks fine. You probably wouldn't have noticed if I don't point it out, but I'm going to point it out anyway. Is that rather than edge highlight every single panel, what I did was anything that extends out from the surface. So for example, this wing, for example, or these raised bits here. These I've edge highlighted all the way around. It's a bit dusty. Yeah, these I've edge highlighted all the way around. Anything that is recessed panels, so for example, this control surface, this air brake, this here, this just panel line in here, all I've done is I've edge highlighted the edges which are basically kind of towards the light, which it's a difficult one when you're talking about a vehicle of this size. But that basically means I've assumed that my light is here, basically from this camera's point of view. My light is above the vehicle, which means that on this panel here, I've edge highlighted this line, and I've also assumed that the light is not just here, but actually at the front of the vehicle. And so I've edge highlighted here as well. And I've done that on all of the recessed panel lines, and it like halves the number of edges that you've got to highlight off panel lines. Makes it much faster, and it actually looks kind of cool as well. It does make it look like there's a light source over here. But on anything that extrudes out, I've done all of them, just because to me it looks a bit weird when you don't do it that way. This gets very strange when you go on the underneath, and you're like, well, the light's above it, right? So where the hell's the light source coming from when you're looking at the underneath of a plane? Because it's not coming from here anymore. That's where the flying stand is. That's where the ground is. Can't be there. So instead you've got to think about bounce light, and where the light is bouncing up from or coming in from. So it's actually coming in from a couple of different directions, depending upon where you're on this vehicle. So for example, we've got a light source here, which is basically in front of the vehicle, and slightly below it, of it bouncing off the snow and coming up. So anything that is kind of facing the front, or is on this side of the main body here, of the troop compartment, I've edge highlighted under the assumption of a light source over here. anything that is on the other side of the troop compartment, I've based on a light source that's on this side, because on the assumption that the troop compartment is getting in the way. And that seemed to work out pretty well. Again, you don't tend to turn these things over to look at them that much, and on a tank, you don't even need to worry about the underside at all. It's only when it comes to flyers, and flyers are slightly tricky, and like I said, no one turns them over. Unless it's a competition. But while you're entering a competition with a flyer, you should be entering a competition vehicle category with something that's got a face like a Dreadnought or a Titan. Very rare for anything to win that's a vehicle that doesn't have a face or pose. Just a piece of advice there. It's incredibly difficult. It can be done, but it's so hard, and it's so much easier to get character into a model if it can be posed like a person, and if it's got a face to act as its focal point. On this, the focal point is probably the cockpit, which I've actually not spent much time on. Just a few wet blends. And this is one of the reasons why Games Workshop seems to be really rubbish at photographing their own vehicles. This is a thing that I noticed when I was watching someone paint the new Adeptus Mechanicus transport, which it's on there. Which looks, in my opinion, pretty awful in Games Workshop's own material, but actually looks really nice in real life. And the reason is GW likes to take their pictures from a model's eye view, which works great for infantry and human-sized models. Even Dreadnoughts works brilliantly because that's the most interesting profile of the model. But for vehicles, that's usually the worst profile of a model. Because for a vehicle, there's usually a lot of stuff going on the top of a vehicle. And if you're taking it from model's eye view, you're going to miss all of that information. All of that interest, all of those interesting points isn't going to be visible. And so Games Workshop is actually taking bad pictures of their vehicles kind of on purpose. Just because, I don't know, that's how they do it for the rest of the stuff. I'm lowering the camera now, back up to its normal position. So actually, as an example, so let's take this, put it in a standard position. Oops. This is a model's eye view. This is a 3/4 view. The 3/4 view gives you far more information about the shape of the vehicle and what it actually looks like, as well as all of the details, than model's eye view does. So yeah, please Games Workshop, start taking your photos of your vehicles from like a 3/4 angle, because they all look better that way. Even the Taurox, which I've long maintained is kind of a derpy looking vehicle, looks perfectly fine in real life and looks perfectly fine in pictures, so long as you're taking the pictures from a 3/4 point of view and can see the top and two sides. You need to be able to see three sides of a vehicle in a picture in order to actually appreciate it, and especially appreciate the paint job on it. Games Workshop are basically only ever showing you two sides in any pictures of their vehicles, and that's actually a terrible, terrible mistake. So that's my rant on Games Workshop's photography of vehicles out the way. I didn't realise I was going to do that. That was completely unplanned. I don't do these things with a script, have you noticed? So what else have I been doing? Well, if you've followed me on Instagram, you'll have seen stuff. I've been painting test models. You going to focus? Yeah, okay. So this is a test model I painted for the Brotherhood of Eternal Scars. And the picture I posted on Instagram was rubbish. It was in terrible lighting. And he actually looked white. He's not. He is sand-coloured. You can tell because the lid of this is white. He is not white. So yes, he is sand-coloured. I've actually mostly been using Vallejo model color paints for doing these guys. For this, I use like an all Vallejo paint job, except for the red, which is corn red. And that's predominantly because a lot of the paints I wanted to use on this chapter I'm running out of, and I was going to need a lot of them in order to paint an entire army. So I went with Vallejo model color because it's a bigger bottle. It contains more. It contains, I think, 17 mil. Hang on, does it say anywhere on here? Yeah, 17. Contains 17 milliliters of paint. GW pots contain 12, so you get 5 mil more. It costs less than a GW pot. It's in a dropper bottle, and it's thicker, so it actually goes further when you thin it. So it's at least double the value of Games Workshop paints by volume. And I'm going to be airbrushing this stuff, and Model Color does airbrush, you just have to thin it down quite a lot with water. So I got those on the basis of trying to save money. I'm still going to be using my Games Workshop paints for pretty much everything else, apart from painting the Brotherhood of Eternal Scars. So don't worry about that. So unless you want to like build this chapter with me, and like build an army of these guys, and they're not going to be a competitive army. It's a painter's army. Yeah, unless you want to build a chapter of these guys with me, then you're not going to need to buy a whole new set of paints. But if you are, then you'll need a bunch of these. And I'm going to be doing tutorials for the Brotherhood of Eternal Scars on Patreon first. So this guy's going to get a written tutorial in the next couple of days. I've got another guy over here ready to go. In order to, yeah, it goes from this to this. You can see if you look underneath. Ready to go for step-by-step pictures that I'm going to be posting. And it's not going to be a video tutorial at first, but you know, there's going to be step-by-step photo tutorial for the $10 patrons. So if you're really interested in the Brotherhood of Eternal Scars, I'll be documenting it mostly over on Patreon, including a lot of the backstory, history, and all of that stuff will be going up on there. And some of that will change as I decide that it needs to change. But this is the basic colour scheme that I'm going with. So, it's a sand yellow armour. I tried the red Aquila. Where's my test models? I'm looking for them. And I cannot see them. Where did they go? I did some other test figures, and now I can't find them. Pause. No, pause. There you go, I found him. It's a mess around here. So yeah, I did some other test figures, and I tried the dark red Aquila thing, and some other dark red features, and I think it looks awful, personally. Ignore this, what looks like nicotine staining. It was a terrible idea. But I tried the red Aquila, and I was just like, no, that is not the look that I want for these guys. I come from a background of playing Raptors, who are reasonable Marines. You know, olive drab and all that. And so I don't really like the super ostentatious part of Space Marines. So I've gone with a metallic Aquila, and there's two reasons for that. One, it's really fast to paint. And two, it's really fast to paint. It's so fast to paint. And it looks pretty good. We've got amber eye lenses, which is just because I didn't really want to use a super contrasting colour. And I think it looks good. If I'd gone with something like a blue, perhaps, a teal eye lens, I think it would look a bit weird. But the fact that the eye lenses are so saturated in comparison to everything else still draws attention to them. So that's good. I'm just going with kind of light brown khaki type material webbing stuff for the pouches, but not for the belt. The belt for some reason is black, I decided. I might do these black again. I'm going to be using this guy as another test model for some of this. And then we've got the Zhaghun, which is the company. I've been trying to learn some Mongolian. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of everything. Which is, their company is marked by their helmet. So every company is going to have a unique helmet pattern. And that's how they indicate their company markings. And then they get their Haban marking on their knee, that just means 10. It's their squad marking, goes on their knee pad. And I've even got, look at that, been working out a marking system for the different numbers. This is based on Mongolian numbers, but I've squarified it, essentially, because I'm using the Fagspa phonetic alphabet for a lot of the markings and decals and words that will appear on their armor, because it's a square vertical script. And I don't know if you've noticed, but Space Marines have got a lot of vertical spaces on them. For example, on their legs and thigh pads, because you can't get a lot of extra details onto their chests or torsos, and they're usually covered. But their legs, there's plenty of space on there. Also applies to vehicles as well. And on the backs here, well, that's probably just going to be another place where the Haban number goes. So your squad number on the back of the backpack, on the knee, and then probably also small on the shoulder pad as well, next to their troop roll. But yeah, Fagspa script, it's great. It's square, which means it will look good off decals, and it goes vertically, which is great. I am, however, probably going to completely butcher all of the words that I'm going to try and spell with it, because I'm not a linguist. If anybody happens to know how to speak Ancient Mongolian, then that would be excellent. Get in touch with me. We'll work out a big decal sheet for the classic Space Marine words that you see on Space Marines, which is basically death. Lots of different words for death on Space Marines. Like mortis, well, that's just butchered Latin for death, yet again. Purge, and so on. It's just like, they're a bit fashy, Space Marines. Let's just admit it. A little bit. But yeah, that's the script I'm going to be using, and so I've got, what is it? This page. On the notebook here. So you can see Khan is actually spelt phonetically QA. It's probably QAHAAN. It's like Kahaan, which is what I've got written here. I think. No, that's Ka. That's A, as in a double A, and that's N. So this is a thing. You can look this up if you want. I've been going super nerd on all of this, but basically, chapter master is Kahan, is your Khan, and you got a Daga, I don't know, which just means leader or chief, in Mongolian. And you'd have one, that's the name of both the captain of a company and the leader of a squad. Which, as you can see, squad, company. Keshig was Genghis Khan's basically Imperial Guard. They were tasked with guarding the Khan himself. There was two of them. There was Day Guard and the Night Guard, and they didn't ever actually go into battle. So there you go. Other things I found out while researching Mongolian and also the White Scars is Zhaghatai Khan is named after Genghis Khan's second son, Zhaghatai. And when you take the Mongolian spelling of that, stick it in Google Translate, and translate it into English, it means catch up. And I find this amusing because it means that the Primarch of the White Scars, his name means catch up. And Genghis Khan's second son had a bit of an inferiority complex to Genghis Khan's first son. I wonder if that had anything to do with basically naming your son, catch up. Catch up with your older brother who's better than you. And yeah, when the whole Mongol Empire got handed down from Genghis Khan after his death to his sons, it all kind of fell apart. And Chagatai Khan was quite a big part of the reason why it fell apart, because of his competition with his brothers. It was, a bit weird. Mongols, they're dead interesting. Go and look them up. I've been enjoying myself learning all about Mongolia and the ancient Mongolian Empire. It's pretty good. And yeah, White Scars history is basically butchered it in a kind of classic cultural appropriation type way. I'm trying to avoid that. But I am taking Mongol type stuff and putting it on Space Marines. And I am a white person. So that's probably already a bad look. So I'm sorry. But I really like it. And I'd rather do more justice to the Mongol-inspired White Scars than apparently the White Scars themselves are doing. If possible. But also, these guys live on a planet that's basically Mad Max with orcs. So, in the future. I don't know. I'm making excuses. But that's it. I'm working on these. This is the basic colour scheme. I'm going to be going on the assumption of... So a little bit of history here. Well, not history, but a little bit of chapter organisation. Marines do not transfer between companies. There is no veteran company and there is no scout company in the Brotherhood. Each company is responsible for training its own new recruits. And the veterans train the scouts. So you typically won't find very many veteran sergeants in the regular squads, but you'll find lots of veteran sergeants leading scout squads. And this is just to increase the bond of brotherhood between the entire company. These 100-ish, they've got a few overstrength companies and quite a few understrength companies. These 100 Space Marines in these companies all have like a strong familial bond between them. So they do not transfer out to different companies, which is why there's no veteran company, that's why there's no scout company. You join the company, and they'll usually join them as a squad, and then that squad will get promoted up through the ranks together. And so you enter the chapter, and you become scouts, and then from scouts you become Marines, and then from Marines you become veterans, and you get promoted up through the ranks, but you'll always stay within your own company. The only exception to this is that the chapter master therefore doesn't really have his own company. There is a chapter master and 10 captains, which I can't remember if that's actually the way that it works in most Space Marine companies, but in most Space Marine chapters, but that's how it was definitely working in this one. There's a chapter master and 10 captains. The chapter master is kind of revered and is secretly replaced every time he's killed by one of the other captains, without anybody actually admitting that that's what's happened. So he is undying. So the veterans are mixed in with the rest of their company. So each company has a different number of veterans depending upon just different factors. But it's not a case of, there's a spot in the veteran company, you can be promoted out and go and join, now you get to wear Terminator armor. It's no. Every company has access to that stuff. It also means that the companies are better able to operate in without any dependence upon the rest of the chapter. So we're not getting veteran squads seconded to specific companies for maneuvers. They just go, we're going to send that Shakun out to fight on this battlefront, and off they go and do that. That was a very strange sound going past the house there. The other part is that when the captain of a Shadowhun dies, it's not a case that a lieutenant will immediately succeed him. The Marines in each company basically vote, they nominate and vote who is going to be the captain on the basis of who do they want to follow into battle. So it's a lot of the time it's you may not be seeking out to become captain or work your way up the ranks, but because the rest of your company respects you and thinks you're the best person for the job, that's how you get it. And then you're responsible for assigning your own lieutenants and your own retainers. Retainers are bodyguards, essentially. There's a little bit of bodyguard, and the ancient is always the oldest Marine in each company is the ancient. Literally, that's it. If you are the oldest one, you're carrying that banner. So that's basically how it works. And each company has its own kind of specializations and preferences for warfare. So this one is a Primaris company. It's one of the higher numbers. And that's because all the Primaris Marines got inducted at the same time, and so got put into the same company. This means a lot of the lower numbered companies, which are older and predate the Indomitus Crusade, they are all made up of regular Space Marines. It's quite rare for them to induct new Marines, but any new scouts that get inducted into the chapter are going up the Primaris route rather than the traditional Marine route. So that's kind of how it works, but they're not in a big rush to cross the Rubicon Primaris in this chapter. But that's why I'm starting with, because that's the models that I like most. But like I said in the previous video, basically they're all going to be wearing Mark IV or Mark V armor. Mostly Mark IV armor, I think. Mark IV or Mark VI. Because those are my favourite marks of armor, and I can do what the hell I want because it's my chapter. Yay. So that's it. A democratized horde. They're also just going to be super focused on Xenos killing and just killing massive hordes. So if you want to clear out orcs and Tyranids, send these guys in, because they're all about weight of massive firepower and close combat fighting, lots of low strength attacks and shooting, not so much big on the taking down big heavy things. But that's because when you grow up on a planet that's actually got a consistent orc problem, you learn how to fight big hordes of aliens. So there you go. That's it. A lot of this stuff I'm still working on fleshing out the stuff and writing it down and things, but I'll be putting this colour scheme up on Patreon for $10 patrons in a step-by-step once I've taken the pictures, which will be tomorrow. So there we go. Got that to look forward to if you're interested in this chapter. And I will eventually do a video tutorial on these guys. Once I've got everything sorted down and I actually want to paint some stuff, I'm probably going to start it off with some aggressors that I've got in this bag. That's a bag full of aggressors. There you go. That's a long, rambly one this week. But I'm really excited about my Space Marine chapters. So I talk about them a lot. I could talk about them for hours, but I won't. So, what have you been up to? Have any of you created your own Space Marine chapter? Did you enjoy it? Was it fun? Did you do anything other than just take, a regular chapter and change the colours? Or did you go on a weird deep dive into some other culture from another country and then horribly appropriate it in a way that is probably problematic, like I've been doing? I don't know. Yeah. That's it. You've had your lot. Thanks for tuning in. Give us a like and a comment and a share and a subscribe and such like. And all that other good YouTube stuff. And I'll see you next week. And also, Snickot's video should hopefully be up this weekend. I'm going to be editing it this week. So they've got that to look forward to on Patreon. Which means that the final part of How to Paint Sisters Battle will be going live. And I'll probably set that live tomorrow. Just in preparation for that. So there we go. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.